Before there was coronavirus, there was corona. Not the drink necessarily, but the solar eclipse. Back in 2017, back then it didn't refer to a virus, but to the dazzling light of the sun's plasma or the sun's atmosphere. It's ordinarily invisible to us, but it reveals itself very powerfully and mysteriously during a solar eclipse. For a moment, back in 2017, in a year that now seems ancient, the world stopped, people walked outside and looked up to observe this strange phenomenon happening in the sky. These days, we plan for months, even years, to see a solar eclipse. Early on, though, those first recorded events were quite a shock to people. We now have the benefit of astronomy to explain them. They had good imaginations. In fact, one popular explanation has it that a dragon was eating the sun. Imagine that heartburn. And so in response, people would sacrifice animals. Sometimes they would even sacrifice humans so that the dragon would actually vomit back the sun. And did those sacrifices work? Well, of course they did, because the sun returned every time. Eclipses are less of a mystery to us now than they were then. We know there's no dragon in the sky. We don't need to sacrifice anyone. We don't need to sacrifice anything to convince the sun to keep coming back. We can predict the exact dates and times of an eclipse. But during an eclipse, many people do stop for a while, observe the corona, and behold the sun anew. Now, enter Jesus in today's gospel. Jesus had just come back from healing the Canaanite woman's daughter. That was our gospel last week, you might remember. And right before that, Jesus was feeding thousands. Now he's arguing with the Pharisees and others. They want a sign. They want some evidence that Jesus is legit. So he curiously turns to his disciples in this moment and asks them what they think of him. Now imagine turning to the people who know you and saying, "Now honestly, what do you really think of me?" I mean, really, give that some thought. But Jesus does it, and Peter responds. He says, "You are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God." And it seems that just then, in that moment, something quite extraordinary happens within Peter. Something that was otherwise concealed within Peter now becomes revealed, and he says it out loud. "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." You know those moments when you know something is true, but then you hear yourself say it, and it becomes really, really true? I suspect it was probably like that for Peter. He experienced Jesus as the Messiah and the living God. He experienced Jesus as the Messiah and the living God. It wasn't just that he knew Jesus propositionally, cognitively, intellectually, academically, nor that he just knew Jesus by way of how he felt about Jesus, although both of those are important. But he really experienced Jesus in his entire self altogether. He experienced the effects of that personal relationship with Jesus, and he said it. Reputable therapists say that if we really want great liberation in our lives, it's imperative that we get what's in here out there, to talk about our experiences with those we trust. That's one of many reasons the sacrament of reconciliation is so powerful and transformative. And Peter was transformed by the great transformer himself, Jesus. During an eclipse, many people stop for a while, observe the corona, and behold the sun anew. Fighting, suffering, evil, all seems to stop for a moment, for a few minutes of awe, a few minutes of mystery, a few minutes of bedazzlement. And that occurs religiously too, if we let it. When we gather together at Mass like we do with the St. John the Evangelist family, when we sing together, when we forgive together, when we receive the Eucharist together, the world around us seems to stop for a while together. Peter knew this as his personal encounter with Jesus eclipsed everything else at that moment. Everything else stopped for a while when Peter came closer to Jesus in that very intimate moment. In that moment, we would say today, was a great experience of Eucharistic adoration where he experienced the living God deeply within his soul. He knew it. He experienced that this person was a reliable and effective experience of the one living and true God who offers unconditional love, endless mercy, lots of forgiveness, and a lot of presence. That's what he experienced. He experienced that deeply within his soul, and he shared it. Peter was a disciple, and Peter made disciples because of his personal experience of Jesus. That made all the difference for him and for us. Indeed, during an eclipse, many people stop for a while, observe the corona, and behold the sun anew. We are invited to do this with our lives, to stop for a while and behold the Son of God anew. As we do this, Jesus asks us the same question he asked of Peter. Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? Who is Christ for you personally? From the depths of your experience, how will you respond?